Hey, this is Nick from Remedy667.com, the best place on the internet for horror fonts and horror themed typefaces. And today is Horror Font Friday. And because it's Horror Font Friday, I'm going to share this fancy picture show book I got. It's classic movie posters from the Turner Classic Movies archives. And as I don't think anybody would expect, it's got these terrible crops of movie posters instead of what you would normally expect, where you get to see like full movie posters like they're doing on these pages. Like, I don't know, give me some friggin' margin, Turner Classic Movies. Either way, what we're going to be looking at today is this little fancy piece of type from the Cat People poster. It's, I don't know, it's kind of rounded. It's condensed. It's interesting. It is this week's Horror Font Friday. So, let's take it away. All right, this looks more like it. Here we are. We're going to hit this bad piece of lettering. Bad boy. You can see my photo that I took is a little off center. So the type's kind of running up like I just learned hand lettering. And, you know, I would like to say that it's going to stay that way, but it's not. It's going to take a little bit of work, and maybe it will stay that way. You know, I don't want to put my money where my mouth is. Let's expand this. We got an awesome space fight going on in the background. All right. So I'm going to take these just so I can keep my guides correct. Look at the difference between these A's. And you notice as they get lower, they like kind of go at wacky angles. This is going to be a really interesting one to make something. We got a D in Dolph. We definitely got E's in Kent there. There's an H. Oh, is there a better looking L? M-N. Ooh, you know what? I think I'm gonna go with this O, but that I'm gonna when I get to numbers. Trust me, friend. Those will become. Do not make guides out of your K. Those will become the actual O. 0. I mean. The trickiest part of this is, I guess, trying to keep talking while I'm doing this lettering. Okay. I'm going to line this all at the top and then align it to my established baseline. I'm going to say that I really want to use the E as my baseline. And, you know, you can see just looking at it, it is going to need just the slightest of fixing. So we're going to do that as we go along. Uh-oh. I think that sound means that somebody in the movie has died. And I think his name was Rico. Not sure if you can hear that or not. I'm going to extend just a little bit over the line for that. I'm going to clean that up a little bit. Clean the D up a little bit right there. The A should go over a little bit. I'm going to save that B and come back to that later. The F would not make sense in a font like this to do it the way we normally do by shortening the E. I feel like the F should actually go up some. I'm breathing really crazy when I do this. I think I had talked a little bit earlier. Maybe I talk about this all the time, like when you're holding your breath to draw a straight line. But it's funny because I, have my computer. I said whoops because I want to actually bend all of it. I was about to redraw a line and I didn't want to have to redraw that line like for everything. Sounds like Rico may be back alive. Perhaps this is also some sort of zombie film. I'm going to use that as my basis for height. That G actually looks pretty good. You could write Garfield in that and I would be happy. Jim Davis would probably be happy. I want that to dip a little bit under, like my C. I did those so small. And I want to clean up that side a little bit. That needs to angle that way. That is a really bad K. Like, what? Oh, I gotta fix these duplicate cursors. I apologize for that. I had shot a video a little while ago where I was doing some work. That K looks so bad. Where I was doing some work with a font that I have releasing next month, and when I went back to rewatch it just to make sure that I don't just say stupid stuff through the entire thing, and there's a lot of stupid stuff coming out of my mouth in that video, but when I went back and watched, I realized it had that double triple cursor going on the whole time, but it was because I was bouncing back and forth between glyphs and Illustrator, and each one works as a separate image, for lack of a better word. And I don't know what I'm saying. It essentially, like, imagine it like a Photoshop file. Like, every layer has an image, and that image is like everything that's on the screen. So it's like, okay, so this layer, show me everything on the screen, but just show me what's in this window and the cursor. And then Glyphs is saying this window and the cursor. So right now I had Glyphs, Photoshop, and Illustrator on, even though I'm only using Illustrator, and everything else is either minimized or in different windows. It's still echoing the cursor from all the other programs, and they're unaligned because I don't know. Because I told you. Sometimes things are a mess. All right. You like how I fix that P a little bit? Let's take this disgusting looking K. We're just going to reflect this. Doesn't matter what direction, because I just want it to go the other way. T. There's actually a quicker way to do that. If I just jump between those, as long as there's nothing in the middle, it'll black out the center. I just want to cut that right there. V W, I need to make an X and a Z. All right, so what are we making our Z with? Let's make it with an E and an N like we do. Let's make the X, I guess, just with that double Y. Let's replace that K with this K. Pull it up a little bit. Not that it's going to make much of a difference, but going to do this old school where I bring it that way. And the reason I'm doing it old school, the reason I'm doing it like that is because the lettering in this font tries to kind of stay with straight lines and roundedness, even though it's lettered. Group that. You hear this music? Something tense is happening right now. And if I weren't so focused in what I was doing, I would look at the screen and tell you what was happening, because I'm that nice. And you know what? It looks like it's just two guys staring into a submarine, and they are divers. And then there's a bunch of dirt coming out, which usually means, yeah, you guessed it, it's a sea monster. And it's colossal. You can tell by the buildup of the horns. Alright, that Z looks really bad. I think what we need to do is that old, how we used to smooth everything in a lot. I think that's the problem. Much better. Still looks like it should be a little more rounded on the sides. Still needs to make a B. Alright, so B is actually going to be really easy with this font. I think I want to even it with the F. Alright, so watch this. I want that about there. Group that. I don't know how we made it. We're very lucky. Go back. So all right. Now the 0 is already made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm actually going to use the O, not the 0, for the 6. Same with the 8 and the 9. And the 7 gets made from Z. And then, per usual, I'm a little iffy on the characters that I'm making as my starters for this. So I might actually change it up. Group that. Transform, reflect the S. Notice how I went a little more to the left or to the right on there. Just did a little bit more modifications on the E than I probably normally would have. You know what? While I have this B going, that's going to be our 3. And while we're at all this, we are going to put together our asset. All right, pause for a minute. All right, sorry. I don't know if you caught that pause or not, but I had to blow my nose. Something fierce. 3. You see that, right? Let's select all the same fill and stroke. So this is clear and clear. It also tried to grab my guides and delete them, and that would have been very mean. You see what I'm doing with the 5 here. The bowl gets a little bit bigger from the S. Group that. That's going to work good for the outside. The inside, I do want a little bit, whoops, not that much. Just a little bit more. With the 7, I want it to come out quite a bit. Whoops. And I want this to curve there. So that will become our 8. And that's our 8. We're going to extend a little bit beyond like we did with the C. And I think I actually... That 9 looks really bad just because it gets a little too iffy in some spots. So I want this to actually work with the O part. All right, let's get us the what do we normally make here? Also periods and stuff. Let's get an I and not an R. An I, an S, a P, a D, an E. So we already have our S set. I'm going to take this E and this D and use that to create our F. I'm going to use the P and the I to create the thorn. I'm going to use this I to make a period. I'm going to use this I to make a comma, and you'll notice they're pretty much identical. One's just double the size, and that's how I'm going to make them in this font. We duplicate those, take this. I'm not going to the middle. I'm going to keep it with the crossbar of the E for my colon, semicolon. Quotes are for sure going up top, but I'm going to condense them a little bit for my chicken feet. I'm going to duplicate that. You know what? While I got my middle going, I'm going to make a bullet point and a period centered. Here, I'm just going to change the size of that a bit. I'm going to transform, reflect my S. And that's going to be used to make my question marks for the mystery spot in St. Ignace. And it's also going to be used to make my ASCII tilde. Whoa, you hear that sound? That sound means there's some wild animation happening in the film. Not sure what it was. It's glowing blue, looked like salt. That is a... That's going to be our macron. We're going to transform, reflect. We got our grave and our accent, and we'll put them together. And that'll give us our circumflex or Karen. And so this is going to give us some pretty hardcore language support, which is probably actually what you want with a display font versus mathematical characters and any of that foolishness. This is going to give us the ring from which we can make the brev. Whoa. So there's a bunch of diacritics. Did we miss anything from our previous font batch? What do we got here? We didn't do an ampersand yet, or a sedia. Well, let's get it together, shall we? With our ampersand, let's make that with a 3 and a T, and our sedia we're going to make from a 5. And we're also going to grab this sneaky C over here and delete that O that we don't really, I don't know why I did that. So we'll reflect the 3, okay, throw the T there. And bring it up. Whoops. I almost got a little too big for my britches there. But that gives us our ampersand, our 5. We are going to group together, and we're just going to clip the top off of that. We'll hook right onto the C for the Cedilla, I don't know. When I was younger, there was this reporter where I grew up named Bill Bonds, and he was pretty grandiose. Tragic story about him, but he would mispronounce stuff, but it was great because he would just flow right through it. And I hope that I am also able to not dwell too much on my sad mispronunciations. Alright, let's bring this E over here. And this is our Ogonek. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly either, but that's what you get. Diacritics. And that is our font of the week from the Cat People poster for Horror Font Friday. This has been Nick from Remedy667.com. You see we have this very sloppily hand-drawn looking, almost Art Deco style piece of lettering. Could be a little smoother. Kind of reminds me of the Peanuts logo a little bit. I don't know. Interesting. But we have our letters. We have our full number set. The 9 looks a little weird to me. Still, we have some of our multilingual characters, a little bit of punctuation, and some diacritic marks, and an ampersand. And you know what? Before we kick out of here today, I want to say that there are some characters that don't come up as much, but I feel like they're also pretty important. And whoops, I'm gonna make them with a EIO, like the farmer. And I'm also going to make it with an S. So I'm going to cut my O on the top and the bottom. And that is actually going to make parentheses, which I don't think are as important. But they're done now. And I'm going to cut our E. And what happens with the E is those pieces connect with my parentheses to make an O. Group that. The EI character actually wasn't really going to do much with that, but there's a lot that happens with this I. I'm not really going to get into all of it right now, but the center of the E with the long stem of the I is going to give us our number sign, which is pretty important these days as it's used for the term, the hashtag. So you want that in your alphabet, even if you're making a display font. And then this O that we grabbed here, and then I forgot to grab an S because an S is an important part of this. I'm gonna cut my S right here and put 1/2 there and 1/2 here. Do you see it yet? We are making the @ symbol, which I think is also very important for display fonts in this day and age, because it's just an important character when you're referencing email and other stuff. Whoop. And it's pretty sloppy looking, but you know, it's still important. So there you go. Sorry, I went over a little bit near the end on my tirade of font should have this. And there you go. That's Horror Font Friday. Cat people, join us next week for whatever piece of lettering we're doing then, or whatever we're going to be doing then. I think we might mix it up, make some posters again. But I don't know. See you next week. Have a good week. Remedy667.com. Be there, or be a person who does not like spaghetti.